No, it's not. Live from Chicago, it's Chris Sells His Soul. I'm your host, Chris Bogue, and this is my weekly show on LinkedIn Live where I have conversations with cool people who can help you work more creatively. Today, my guest is Nicholas Thickett.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, everyone in the comments, please welcome Nick. Nick, please introduce yourself and let my audience know where they can find you.
Yeah, my name's Nicholas Thickett. I go by Nick, so if you're trying to email me, make sure you put Nick or you're going to hit my filters. I help sellers book meetings consistently on social. I'm the managing partner of Aligned, host of the B2B Power Hour with my co-host Morgan Smith. Please check out b2bpowerhour.com and let's learn how to go and book some meetings in the comments today. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I'm interested. So everybody in the comments, hello, Denise. Why don't we share? Does anybody specifically use LinkedIn for their business? Does anybody do sales on LinkedIn? And do you know the comments? Do you use the comments for your strategy? So leave comments about comments here in the comment section. We will be answering questions throughout the show. Hello, Margot. Nice to see you. And this episode is called Read the Comments because Nick and I both do a lot of work on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is essential to the business that we do. And half of what we do is just have interesting interactions in the comments all day. Nick, why don't you explain to me a little bit about how you started leaving comments on LinkedIn and what was the point of doing that?
I'm actually going to take you back a little further.
Okay.
And there's this thing that a lot of you guys might know of, Twitter. 140 characters back in the day. And where I started commenting is I was just trying to go and be social, get to know people and make friends back when I had another business. And it was really hard to network and get outside of just your local area. So I just got on Twitter and I would start posting content. And I realized that content only worked if you had an audience. The hashtags didn't do all the work. And with Twitter, you couldn't send a personalized invitation to connect with people and have them in your audience. You had to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all in the comments. And so it really made me think of like, well, how do you have a real conversation? Because nobody's going to just follow you if you don't offer value.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was commenting, and you do a great job of this, Chris. You'll look for certain conversations and you just dive in. You're like, I can offer value on this. I have a unique point of view. I think this is just fun, and you do a great job. And you would have got a lot of followers on Twitter using that methods. And then if your little funny clips and stuff, they would have loved you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I used to think, I've done Twitter. I have a Twitter. I don't go as hard on Twitter as I go on LinkedIn. What I do on LinkedIn is improv. All my stuff, all my training is improv based. And the fundamental idea of improv is yes and. And that's what I tell people to do in the comment section. It's not yes, but it's not yes, although it's not, no, here's this. You don't have to go fight with people online. People think of Twitter and they think of fighting. What I say is go find the people who are doing it right. Find the people who are smart. Find the people who are funny. Find the people who are further in their journey than where you are. And go yes and them. They want the same engagement you want. They want comments. They want reactions. They want shares. They want interesting interactive discussions. So give them that. And the more you offer, the easier it is to ask, Yeah. So what are you, in terms of value add? Everybody says you got to add value. I have a character named Vague Man, and his joke is that he adds value and never explains what that means. When you say value and like adding value to a conversation on LinkedIn, how does one do that, Nick?
I'll tell you what it's not. It's not features and benefits. It's not your marketing one-liners. I see this a lot with sellers that are trying to be social. But I heard a joke earlier today. It was like social selling is stalking on social to eventually sell. So everybody just feels like a moving wallet. That's what it's not. It's really about just looking at what that person's day-to-day looks like and what is that friction. And this is why you got to pick your audience so carefully So you can actually step into their shoes and know their struggles. And then really where it starts is, what are some common struggles, that like 80-20 rule that everybody struggles with? Well, a lot of SDRs really struggle with, I don't know who the hell to call and what to say. So
Yes.
that's a fun place to play for me, is to go and say, hey, well, maybe instead of dialing, another additional 100 calls just because you don't know who to call and what to say, why don't we go and dial that in and let's figure it out?
Yeah, that is, I always find when I'm coaching people on how to make content, I always say go back in time and find a younger version of yourself and give them the knowledge you wish you had, you know?
Yes.
And in my case, part of that is sales. And like I have people who follow me because I'm a guy who started my own business and it's a content-led sales strategy. And people think that's interesting, but also I paid a lot of money to learn how to be funny. I paid thousands of dollars to go learn at the Second City. Producing shows is not cheap. Actors are not cheap. Space is not cheap. It's hard to sell tickets. And I learned that stuff. And now that everybody's got to do this entertainment thing all the time, I've learned like, wait a minute, that same knowledge that I paid money for, someone else would probably accept that for free.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I'm sounding the alarm to all the artists out there. Because I feel like there's a bunch of people who went to theater school, they went to art school, they went whatever. And then they're like, I'm never going to make any money off of this. I'm just going to go do sales. And I'm like, guess what, gang? Being a regular salesperson doesn't cut it anymore. But you can actually just be a normal person. You can actually just be a relatable person. So I guess my next question for you, Nick, is some people think there's a business side of themselves and there's a personal side of themselves, and you're not supposed to mix them together. Do you believe that? Do you keep personal self and business self separate, or have they just kind of blended together?
So, Chris, if you had a business self and you were out and about, say buying groceries, and you ran into your customer at the grocery store, would you have to change how you talk to that customer with those friends around?
I wouldn't. I don't have any boundaries. I'm just like, oh, this CEO, I'll just talk to them like they're my grandma. I don't, it's like, I don't really,
You're just you.
yeah, I am a firm believer in like, look, even if there was separation, we lost that. People aren't logging into a work computer the same way they used to and leaving it in an office. Half the people doing office jobs or more, they're remote. They are in their home. And my strategy is to just acknowledge that. I'm curious. So like, I see a bunch of amazing people in the comments. They're all commenting on our home improvement thing. If anybody wants to see, I can share this out. Nick and I did a little home improvement parody to promote the show. And I have actually found that content is incredibly valuable. In my case, I make people laugh, and people need that. So, Nick, you make a lot of awesome content. I love your pod. You do a live stream as well that airs on Fridays that I like to tune into. Can you tell me a little bit about like what role does your content play in driving sales?
Hell yeah. Content is the only thing that gets invited to the table when you're not there. It's the only thing. And the problem with the most content, and you had talked about it earlier, is people put their jersey on that the company that they are employed by, and it's like they own them. Their numbers on, they got their last name on the back, and as long as they're wearing that jersey, they are not them. People don't buy that. But the thing is, sales, first and foremost, is change management. You don't go buy shit when you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes you do, but you don't make big purchases when you don't need it. And so content's the only thing that gets invited to the table because we're not looking for it necessarily, especially in social feeds. But every once in a while, you'll see something and it changes your point of view. You're like, shit, maybe if I'm funny in my videos that I'm sending out, like Chris, people will take me seriously, not because I'm not being serious, but because I'm putting in the effort to reach out in a way that is meaningful, and I'm leaning with value. That content is always about value. What are those jobs to be done? What does that change? What is good enough right now that people don't realize is really freaking expensive? So maybe you got a fridge, and that fridge, you're like, yeah, but my fridge is fine. Why the hell would I need a new fridge? And you look and you're like, Chris, you notice in the back there, like tucked in the corner, there was that head of lettuce and it was kind of like looking a little gooey. Yeah, like kind of gross, hey? And do you ever throw away food every month? Well, yeah. Like, how much do you think that cost you, Chris? Well, like $200. Well, that sounds like you're like, is that throwing away $2,400 in groceries good? But you can do that in content because people can follow that storyline without having to have the back and forth. And when you do this well, this is where it carries into the comments, and it's not a one and done, it's a conversation starter. And this is how people explode their followings, like Nick Bennett, like yourself, that they inspire people to be better to better themselves and to take part in the community in the comments, and they get the support they need or they don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, my thing that I think about is just like, what would I want? What do I want? And like, can I give that to other people? And like you said, if I'm an SDR, and for people who don't follow sales lingo at home, an SDR is a sales development representative. It's a person who makes cold calls all day. They make cold calls and cold emails, and they try to set appointments all day. And their commission is based on how many meetings they can set, right? So always got to be pushing more output. They get rejected constantly. Every single thing they do is turned into a number that is managed by a boss. It is a stressful job.
More power.
That's more power. That's why, the content gives you more power. Again, it's like, what do you think? And this is another thing that I think is interesting that I don't think people talk about enough. I view everything as entertainment, even when it's sales, because we are all sharing the same screen now. Your SDR who's sending that cold email to your prospect is competing with me and Nick's home improvement video, and also Netflix, and also that person's family, and also all these other priorities they have in life. We're all competing for that same screen, right? So it's like, when I'm making stuff that salespeople are going to consume, I put myself in that SDR's position and say, I'm going to lose my job unless I get another meeting. My meetings aren't converting. Oh, maybe this guy has something he can tell me. Oh, this guy's not giving the same advice that everybody else is giving. And again, half of it is I tell people, one, you do have to ask for the business. And I have this style where I am very upfront about what I do. I'm a salesperson by training, so I am trained to be able to tell people what I do in 10 seconds. And I literally use the phrase, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention I'm a coach and you can hire me. But here's another thing you can do. And I always have something other than sales to talk about. And oftentimes it's the thing that they just did. I was like, wow, that video was incredible. Like that I don't know how you did that editing thing. That was so cool. And being noticed is a valuable thing. And I'm curious, like, again, I'm always fascinated by like what you say. So like, let's talk connection requests. Okay. People are uncomfortable to do that. One thing I've learned from coaching is people aren't sending enough connection requests, especially if you have a business. You should be maxing out your 100 connections.
100 a week.
Yeah. Or pay for more. That's what me and Nick do, I don't know. I assume Nick does. But what are you sending to connection requests? How do you find people to connect with? Oh, you don't do more than 100. Okay. Tell me about it.
We can talk about it.
Yeah. What do you send to people?
So the core of sales, and I see Tom in the comments here, SDRs, if they thought of themselves as sales catalysts, that they are the instigator of change, it would change the whole way that they went to work. They have an amazing job, but they have to embrace their catalyst. They're an instigator, a little bit of a shit disturber, and that's okay. But when it comes to connection requests, change, you have to see an observation. So why change? Why now? What did you see that's happening that they don't realize is a problem? If I saw one of your videos and you were coughing and you were like had a runny nose and your face is red, be like, hey Chris, I just watched one of your videos and like I couldn't help but notice that you were a little bit red and like you're coughing, you're sneezing. You think maybe you might have a cold? I help so-and-so go and deal with their cold. Interested? But I'm leading with something you can't deny. Whether you need me or not, that's a different story, but I'm leading with an observation. That is hard when you don't have an observation. And this is what kills a lot of outreach, is because people don't have a legitimate reason to reach out other than they think people want them. But when there's proof points, hey, Chris, I noticed that your company only lost one SDR in the last year, but you just lost 17 in the last month. That's an event. That's a change. That's something I can see using Sales Navigator or other tools. Somebody that's responsible for those SDRs is going to go, yeah, of course I noticed. I don't know what the hell is happening, but because I deal with this all the time, there's an insight that I can offer them, like what you do with comments, like what you do with video. It gives us value and it makes our conversations worth paying for.
See, that's interesting because I have a list of 3 things. Sometimes I'll mention all 3, but usually I'm only doing 1 when I connect. And it's like with people, I say, I either come in there talking about their values, their goals, or an elephant in the room problem I know they're probably dealing with. And for me, actually, what I've discovered, and sales is a lot of times spending, how am I going to get noticed? I have found that there is so much value in just noticing people the way they would like to be noticed. So again, if I see a content creator and I love their content, my connection request message might be, hey, Nick, I love your content. I hope we'll connect. That's valuable to them. He's been working on that. I know it's hard to make a consistently good show. People want to do that. And people will tell me, well, the people I'm selling to aren't on LinkedIn. I go, that's fine. They're somewhere. And if you have no personal information about them whatsoever, go look up their company's press releases. Go find their Twitter. Whoever is running that marketing team is paid to try to get their public perception to be something,
Yep.
So if you just show up noticing that and be like, hey, I saw that initiative you did for Women's History Month. That was cool. Great job. I hope we can connect. They see that I got it.
Though.
Well, why should I be careful?
Because if you ever have one of those friends in high school that was really not nice to you when you look back at it, but you realize that the only reason they were a friend was to use you?
Mm-hmm.
When you lead in with hyper personalization that is completely fucking irrelevant to what people are talking about, people are like, that just got really salesy really quick and like sleazy because it didn't align with why you were reaching out to them. So unless you're playing a really slow game and you don't want to get business from them anytime soon, go with that. Be their friend.
We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this because I don't go for the business on the first touch point. That is a difference between me and traditional sales processes. I actually do a thing where it's like they're either a prospect or an audience member, and I am thinking long-term for my business. So I have people in my network who I am not selling them anything right now, but when I publish my book, I'd like them to buy my book. I have other price points that are coming in the future, but I had a friend who told me, if you want to build a brand, you go person by person. So yes, I use Sales Navigator and I find people who they fit my customer profile. They have Vidyard, that they check all the boxes, but a lot of people, I just know they would benefit from the content. And I'm like, maybe this person is not a customer today, but they could be in the future. Yeah. And if they already know me and they're open to me, and I have an open line of communication when I am ready to sell them something, that's a very easy ask. So yeah, I notice those things because I am only going after the people who talk about the things I talk about. I only go after people who I think might find value in the show or, in my video content. And then some other percentage of my feed are prospects. And in my personal notes, I keep them separate. Is this person a fan or is this person I'm trying to sell to? But I treat them the same. I just treat them as like, they're here for the show. How do I make sure I'm giving them a good show every week?
Love it. If more people took that approach, LinkedIn would work better for them. People try to rush. They always try to rush through the process. And this is why social selling doesn't work for most companies, is because they accelerate the process. And like we were talking about earlier, Chris, one thing you do really well is you earn trust at scale. With your content, you're fun, you're yourself, you're authentic. You tell people the value they're going to get. You tell what you're going to solve, and you put it out there for the world to know. You can do that one-on-one, but it can't be rushed. The beautiful place where we are right now is me and you could have a relationship in the comments or through post by post for 6, 8, 10, 12 months. It's no additional work. It's fun. It allows us to really get to know each other. And I'm starting to see that rapport isn't built in meetings anymore. It's built in content and comments, and maybe a little bit in the DMs.
Yeah, I am a bit, and I actually just did, and we'll talk about this in the second half of the show too, because I did a deep dive on my LinkedIn messages. If anybody doesn't know at home, you can download all of your LinkedIn data. Go into your settings, you can download all your messages. I did a deep inventory of all the messages I've sent over the past year. And there were people that in my head, I thought, wow, this person just jumped in the boat and paid for coaching. That was the easiest sale I ever got. And then I went and looked through and I said, you know what? I didn't realize we actually sent each other quite a few DMs for 3 or 4 months before I ever asked them for business, and they were coming to the show and they were leaving comments and they were enjoying things and they were getting value out of what I was doing. And then when I made a vidyard being like, hey, I can't help but notice you're there in the comments and I think my coaching would be good for you. That deal velocity is fast. Because I don't need to go make them a case study and do this and that. It's like they see what I can offer. Can I bring them a benefit or not? And if they say, nope, I don't want this, I go and I cross them off the list and I go, thanks. Stay tuned for the show. Love having you in my network. Yeah. Speaking of which, it's time for our mid segment. Gimme.
Let's do it.
Are you ready for Gimme? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So people don't know at home, this is the segment of the show where my guest and I ask you for money. I pop into character here, and I think people forget, and it can be easy to forget this when you're talking about social selling, but LinkedIn was made for self-promotion. And trying to square that up is interesting because it's a social platform, but it was also a social platform designed for you to put your business experience in there and ask for work. So every once in a while, I have to remind my audience exactly what it is that I want from them. So here we go. Hello, welcome to another segment of Gimme. Nick, welcome to Gimme. What can the audience give you today?
You guys can tune in tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for the B2B Power Hour, where we go and break apart social selling.
Amazing, right? And hey, if you're a miserable SDR, you might already be drinking at that time in the morning. Anyway, might as well go tune into a live stream where you can actually learn how to sell that isn't just pitch slapping people on LinkedIn. Nick, what else can people do if they want to go give you money or support?
If they would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, Nicholas Thickett, you can come and join us for a workshop where we're going to take you through content and engagement strategies that book meetings and don't come across as salesy. Unless you like cold calling, then you can do that.
No, they don't, Nick. I know for a fact that they don't. Cold calling sucks. I hate to break it to you folks, but did you happen to see me and Nick's little home improvement parody? Was that the funniest thing you've ever seen on LinkedIn? Because for me, that was just Wednesday. Okay, folks, I don't have a choice. I have to make amazing content if I want to survive. And guess what? That's what you have to do too. The beast wants content every single day. And if you want to get to that level, you need to hire Chris Bogue as a coach. I'll come in there. We can do a one-off 90-minute session. I can train your team, or I can train you personally on a weekly or monthly basis. But you want to get out there and do the laughs and go boo, 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 and be the boss and say fuck, you can do that. Nick, did you do that with me?
That we did. We even got some Celtic proverbs in there. Should we go in? I don't know. Are we allowed to go and break it in this section? Are we allowed to go and tell people?
Tell people what?
Don't fucking pitch slap.
Don't pitch slap them. No. You don't have to do that. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and Chris Bogue and Nick Thickett took the one less traveled. And guess what? You get more sales here, and you can say fuck as many times as you want, because who's going to stop you? Not me. Nick, are you going to stop them?
No, and if you're ready to go and upgrade your videos, Chris has got you covered. And Vidyard all the way.
That's right. We can do Vidyard. We can do TikTok. We can do content. I can do it all, baby. The question is, do you want me to take all my comedy for myself, or do you want some of it for you? Nick, you got anything else today?
Hey, we got a workshop coming up in 2 weeks. If you're interested in going and creating content that sells and booking meetings in your comments, shoot us a message. Happy to help you out. Make sure you hire Chris. He's amazing.
Thank you. And at the very least, you can always go to me or Nick's profile and ring the bell. We are content creators. We will happily take your attention every single day if that's all you can spare. So this has been Gimme Gimme. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for doing that, Nick. And that takes us nicely into our next topic. So you have people that you've connected with, and I'm sure lots of people in my audience here, they have connections, but they don't know how to ask for a business meeting. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. But before we go to the ask, I want to talk about data and how do you organize who you're asking for business and how you're following up with them. Give me some insight into that process.
So are you thinking like Sales Navigator, how I do my outreach and like kind of the guidance, like my guiding poles to make sure that I'm not wandering aimlessly in the LinkedIn realm?
So I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I want to be mindful that not everybody in my audience pays for that. That's expensive. It's $100 a month. So, some people are probably listening to this podcast and they only have regular LinkedIn. So you might want to touch on just like how you organize people, or like, how do you know who to go after and who not to go after? But yeah, I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I also just make, sheets and documents on Google Docs. So how are you keeping track of this? How often are you asking for business? Give me the details.
So there's a couple, I layer. Anytime we're in sales, you have to invest in your time, and your time is better spent in layers so that you can get compounding growth. So while I'm in a meeting, my content's working. While I'm not in a meeting, my comments are working, and there are also other people are seeing them. So one of the ways that I do this is I'll follow 3 to 5 influencers that have trust in my market. And so I go just by the influencer, and I go a little bit based on the industry and the title. And what I'll do is I'll comment and add my 2 cents. And then what I do is I don't stop there. I'll go and find 5 to 10 people in those comments that I can start a conversation with. And this is what it's like, building trust at scale and not doing in the DMs, is other people can see it. And then as long as your profile is set up properly, people will look at your profile, which gives you a reason to reach out. And so I will do, it's about a half an hour, and I'll do anywhere from usually about 3 influencers times that by 5. So 15. And sometimes if I'm on a roll, you can go in, I'll go to 10, and I'll do that for 5. So there's 50. And that's how I start my day. Now, when it comes to being more targeted on specifically people that I want to talk to, what I do is I'll use Sales Nav. But I found out something really interesting polling underperformers versus top performers. So people that were getting recognized, going to President's Club, that everybody just wanted to be like them because they were the top earners. And then there's the people that were like, I don't know what the hell is going on, but I can't call anybody. And the top performers were using 8 to 16 filters. So there was 8 to 16 specific pieces of information they were using to determine that they were worth reaching out to. The bottom performers were 2 to 4.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because like the thing is, like, I talk about how I picked my audience one by one. And, when I'm making a sales list, so much qualification goes before I even reach out. I go to the people who are talking about the things that I'm talking about. In my case, I coach people. One of the things I coach is how to use Vidyard. How can you get on and make efficient little 30-second sales videos or customer success videos that are going to drive people through your pipeline when you can't actually reach them? So what do? I set Sales Navigator, because you can pick the tech stack. Does this company use Vidyard? So that's one aspect of it. And then who is talking about Vidyard? If somebody has a success story and they tag Vidyard in it, now I'm not coming in and diagnosing their problem, but I'm saying, hey, great job on that win. That's awesome that you're using video for that. Then we can connect, and then I can probably get into a conversation about like, That's awesome. Does your whole team use Vidyard? How many of those are you sending? Cool.
Away
If
you
you
go.
ever want to talk about just scaling that up, we should talk. This is what I do, and that person's not going to be like, unsubscribe, take me off your spam. Like, even if they don't want to talk to me, they're like, oh, you know what? We're not really interested in that right now. We just paid for some coaching, but I'll keep you in mind, and I just say, hey, thanks. And then now I've got some information. I know I can try again later when they're wrapping up with their other coach. But the fact that they were already looking for the thing I sold, he already has the decision-making power I'm looking for. I don't have to hire an SDR team to ask all these qualification questions. I know that this is a person who might see value in what I sell, So if you're being strategic about your connections and you're not just connecting with every single person you went to college or who went to your college, but rather you're looking for like, what are the types of job titles I need to sell to? And then most importantly, like the things you value. It's like not LinkedIn isn't just all about fixing problems. People are talking about their values and people are talking about the things they believe in. And it's like, find the other people who are doing that and just affirm them, connect with them, learn from them. Comment on them, participate in their polls, support their stuff when it's good. And you're just going to find all these relevant people. You don't really have to like, I don't know. Have you kind of found this thing where it's less robotic and you kind of just have a more realized version of who you're selling to? Because that's what's happened to me.
Absolutely. And then you find that you seek out conversations more than you seek out customers. And that it's almost got this like magnetic pull where you're just having good conversations and being a resource and having fun, and people start coming to you. Of course, you still have to do some outreach. And like you said, you still have to ask for business. But yeah, I'd much rather do that than go knock doors, dial, do automated email process, because they don't lead to good conversations.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I struggled all my life because I did all this improv and sketch comedy stuff. I would do these shows. Like, you think my videos are like layered in jokes? When I was doing 90-minute long shows with a cast and an orchestra and like stuff that comes in 45 minutes later, referencing earlier scenes and callbacks, it was very intricate stuff that I worked so hard on, and maybe a few dozen people saw it. You got a show that runs for 3 weekends, you sell a few hundred tickets, and that's it. And I would tell companies like, no, you know what? I could help you get better at this, but they couldn't see it. And the moment I started just being like, I am going to show them what I know. I'm going to show them how to do comedy. I'm going to show them how to give a good performance. I'm going to show them how to do sales in a way that's fun and not robotic and pushy. And once they saw me doing it, and once they consistently see that I'm doing it, it's so much easier to ask. And like, I do comedy because, again, I spent years and hours training and learning and doing. Everybody in this audience has put those hours into something else. Maybe that's your career. Maybe that's a skill you developed. Even just the kind of relationships you have. I say you are a father, you are a mentor, you are a son, you are a daughter, you are all these things come into work and affect what we're able to do, our time commitments and our priorities. And like, you can speak about anything lots about. Again, just try to do it in a way that's going to help someone else and just not be totally self-serving to you.
Absolutely. And you can even search for that.
What do you mean?
So like you had talked about, you search for people that use Vidyard or mention Vidyard. Well, you can even search before, like, I hate video. Video is hard. And because this is a free thing with LinkedIn, is you can do search keywords, but you got to think of how people would naturally say something in a conversation. Marcus Chan had a really good hack. What he does, he looks at top books. So if there's a book that teaches you how to do video, go look at the book, go look at the 2, 3, 4-star reviews and look at what it missed. Why didn't they give it 5 stars? Even reach out to them. And then what you can do is use that natural way they ask the question, search for it on LinkedIn. And what you'll start doing is you're getting people that are, sometimes they're just bitching because they need to get it off their chest. Other times they're genuinely concerned because they're like, I need to know this or my job's on the line. But you get to tune into those conversations and be, come in there in the nick of time and and support them when they need it the most.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting though, because I am like, so I depart from a lot of marketing orthodoxy, because they say you sell to pain and not pleasure. And I found social selling, it's a little different. I actually like what I'm doing. I'm still selling a problem, but people don't necessarily realize it's a problem yet. So what I have to do is I have to sell a transformation, you know?
Hmm.
So I am showing people you could be doing it better. And I always say I am trying to make my audience jealous. Whenever people use the J word, I'm like, I am onto something here. Because they'll be like, oh, I'm so jealous you get to make trailers. I'm like, I'm a dude talking to his phone. I would happily make you a trailer. You could do that too. I'm doing a webinar strategy. Why does it feel so fun? Because like I was trained to do fun shows, and yeah, if your sales are suffering and your team is burning out after 8 months, even though you're shoveling them piles of money, your job sucks and your process needs to be updated. But people look at me and they're like, well, he just does funny stuff, so I have to show them that they can transform into something that's better for their creativity and their mental health, but also something that's going to be better for business. And I have found that when I started this business, I was going after the shy people, and shy people they ditch out on meetings. I've told this story before, but when I started this business, I would charge people $100 just to book the session, and people would pay me $100 and just not show up to the session. And I'd be like,
Thanks.
I don't want you to lose your deposit. And they're like, maybe some other time. And I was like, okay, actually going for the camera shy people isn't as effective as finding the people who are already starting to get on camera. They're trying to figure out what they're doing, but the videos are a little bit too long. They're not strategic. They're not getting enough comments. They're not getting enough likes. They see me out here with my drill and my and me and Nick Thickett getting all the laughs. And they're like, oh, that actually looks way more fun than what I'm doing. And if they're hitting the like button, if they're enjoying it, and their title is VP of Sales or Head of Sales Enablement, or founder or whatever, yeah, then I can send a little vidyard or a voice note or something being like, hey, thanks for supporting my content. I think this coaching might actually help you. I actually think I could help you do X and Y and Z. I know your team is talking about this, this, and this. That is actually what I coach. And if you're open to that, let me know, and I'll send you my availability. And I'm not selling the product there, but I'm selling the meeting. And if I follow half their team, if their SDRs and AEs like my content, or they like my content and they've been showing up to the shows, I go, yeah, you know what? I think I could help you do X and Y and Z. And this is specifically what I focus on. And just let me know, yes or no, do you want to talk about that? And if they say yes, I have 30 minutes where I can go be salesy. I can go prepare a slide deck. I can have my agenda. I can tell them, I can break it down and say, here's what you're going to get. Why wouldn't you want that? But first, I'm giving them the opportunity to say yes or no. So I use Vidyard and voice notes. What do you use to actually go for the ask?
I love video too. I actually switched. And so I like Vidyard, but only for the second video and on.
Okay.
What I noticed is because of cybersecurity, a lot of people wouldn't click the link, even with the little GIF thumbnail. They just wouldn't do it. And as soon as I switched to LinkedIn native video and just my face popped right up and they watched it, I noticed that it went from, it was just under 20%. It was like 17% open rate to I'm 100% open rate on all my videos on LinkedIn. And my response rate's about 81, 82%. It's not like it works. And the thing is, having that formula, like you said, one of the best things I started doing, and I got it from James Buckley, is he goes and sends you a video right after you connect. Because a lot of what we learn, right, is we like, man, that was cool. I want to use that. And so I started doing, this is what impresses me about you, and just starts a conversation. That was a fun way to get things going too. An observation again.
Yeah, I have found it's actually a fun way to get to other decision makers, the video. Like what I did was I was selling somebody, and sometimes I have clients who sometimes they want me to be a corporate trainer for their company. The company's not ready to pull the trigger, so they hire me first out of their own pocket. So I was working with someone, she wanted to work with me. She's like, maybe I can get my company to pay for this, or maybe I can get you to come in as a trainer. And so what we did was we had our little half-hour meeting where we discussed the benefits and what it costs and what she'll get out of it and what I could do for her. And then I go, okay, who's the decision maker? Okay, let's call him Ron. I go, well, here, would you like me to make a vidyard that just recaps everything what we talked about and my price points and stuff? And then you can forward that to Ron.
Buyer enablement. Beautiful.
Exactly. And it's like, I didn't get, I'm not cold calling this guy or whatever, but someone else is vouching for me. She's going to send a 60-second video. That's me. I'm well framed. It has captions. All my vidyards have captions. I strongly recommend that to people, even though nobody does it but me. But I reached out to them and I say, yeah, as a recap, here's what we discussed. You're working on X, Y, and Z. I could help you get here. You could be doing this, this, and that. TikTok wants 3 videos a day. We can bash that content. Let me know if you'd be open to discussing this. Now I got a meeting with her boss, about a corporate package. And they can do, if I send someone a video and they don't watch it for a couple of days, I don't care. I will make sure they watch it. And if they don't watch it, I might give them a little bump later on being like, hey, did you get a chance to look at that video? I'm curious what you thought about that.
But you led with an observation once again. You did bottom up. You went and looked at what is the business case for us to work together, and then you raised it up. You escalated it. And what happens is a lot of people don't think about it as a buyer. We are there to help buyers and enable them to make decisions. A lot of the time, we're trying to drag them to the finish line. You're like, how often do people go and get a proposal, but they don't know what the hell was proposed in that meeting when they're talking, where you just said, hey, we talked about this, and this being an issue, and this is what you're looking for. This is how much it'll cost. How much easier is that as a decision maker to go, that makes sense. It's within our budget. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, I try to tell people the reason why cold calling is so hard is like, first you got to get them to put down their guard and open up to you. Mm-hmm. And it takes a very talented person to do that. What video and what content does is allows people to experience you whenever they feel comfortable. You're not sitting there demanding an answer now. But when I originally started in sales, I had a mentor who told me, if you're doing sales, you could give the greatest presentation in the world, but when that person hangs up the phone, they now have to go sell to their boss. And if they can't hang up, if you did all the talking, they're going to be like, hey, we should hire Chris Bogue. He's amazing. And the boss is going to say, what? Nope. Who is he? LinkedIn influencer? Nope. We don't have money for that. They have to be able to explain it to their team why it's good for their own reasons.
Yes.
But I'm like, oh, now with video, actually, that presentation doesn't have to go by the wayside. I can have a recap there. And let's say they don't pull the trigger. So let's say I have this meeting and I blow it and they say, no, thanks. But 3 months from now, I go back for another ask, or 6 months now or whatever, they can go watch that original video and it's still going to be good. And it's still going to show like, what does this Chris Bogue guy do again? They can just watch the video again. And in 60 seconds, there's me explaining what I do and why I'm relevant. Yeah. And that's an evergreen sales pitch. I tell people, be a time traveler. Because again, I told you in the beginning of this conversation, I am playing the long game here. And I learned doing sales. If you shoot your shot to your biggest prospect immediately and you blow it and you get on the do not call list, you have dug yourself into a hole. You have to do lots of extra work just to get them to be open to you. So I get them open to me first, and then I have a conversation with myself. Should I ask this person or not? I'm actually going to throw this up here because I love this from Tom Smith. Tom Smith asks, do you add a message to your connection request, or do you just punch the connection request button? Nick, do you want to dig into this?
Sure. What me and Morgan found when we did our experiment, so we actually have numbers behind this, it depends on the strength of your profile. Mm-hmm. If you have a very strong profile that's very personal and that people understand why you, then I actually leave it blank because it actually boosted especially your tagline, your banner image, and your profile picture. If they pass the 3-second test where they just take a quick glimpse, like, I know what you do, you're going to get an 80% plus acceptance rate on blank. But when you don't have, it doesn't say what you do and they're stuck wondering, now it's relaying all on that message. And so you have to go and send a personalized invitation. And now there's a lot of weight on that invitation because it has to go and resonate with them, and it has to be super relevant and resonate. And it's the same with our profiles, but what is easier? Let your profile talk for you every time you comment and every time you're being active? Or do you always want to rely on that DM? And also, the one last thing I'll say is it comes down to timing. Unless there's a time frame where there's a deadline for me to reach out to you for some reason, I don't personalize it because I don't normally reach out to you in that way. I'll start in the comments.
See, I have found, so the data says, if we want to know what the robots say, yeah, you're pretty close to like no connection message does pretty well in terms of getting them to accept. I will say I almost always include a personalized message because that's a good way to start a conversation. And sometimes, again, it'll be as simple as like, hey, I noticed your comment on Atomic Habits. You know, I coach my clients to go. Now, we look for prospects by who's talking about books. So if I'm, you know, coaching a CEO and they're trying to help CEOs and, you know, founders and solopreneurs and stuff, I say, okay, look for the people who are talking about Atomic Habits. Because why do you buy that book? You're trying to build habits, you know? So that person has the job title you want. They are talking about this book. This is a thing lots of people are talking about. Find everybody who fits your ICP. It's very easy to strike up a conversation about habits. But I have found it's like, yeah, actually, so my headline has gotten me a lot of business. I get business through my headline because it says Chris Bogue, mercifully short video content that drives revenue. It says what I do. That is my offer, you know, and it's like, if I talk to somebody, hey, by the way, what is my job? Mercifully short video content that drives revenue, but let's talk about you. I loved your video, you know, and you just put it out there. People were telling me I needed to make a longer headline. So now it's mercifully short video content that drives revenue. Stalk my featured section. It's hilarious. And that draws people to go to my featured section because when you're in creator mode, you want that. And I have a quality over quantity, you know, that's what I prefer. So I do usually have video out there every day, but I actually love when people just stalk my old videos and someone goes down the rabbit hole and they're commenting on every single video from the past several months. But yeah, I actually do. I want to start that conversation, and it's so much easier to come back and ask them for something else or send another DM or something like that if we've already been talking back and forth. So yeah, I will actually include a connection message because I want to get them talking about them. What else do we have here in the comments section? People are asking about my water bottle. You know what? Don't hate. I need a lot of water. I'm playing a wind synthesizer and gabbing all day and doing sales. Yeah, this is a big, heavy water bottle. And I'm like, who cares? You can just be yourself. That's the thing I teach people. So where else is this? Okay, native video. So you post native video on LinkedIn, not Vidyard, right? Or did I have that?
So that it shows up as a full preview, so you can just click and watch. What I noticed is that because it's right there, it's just a video that they watch right in their DMs. It worked better. But I like the repeatability of Vidyard thereafter, so I can track.
Yeah, it's interesting because you know, sales is a numbers game, and at some point you can't personalize everything. And actually, there's been research on this that says you actually need more personalization the less decision-making power the person has. So, for example, if I'm pitching myself to a CEO, I'm gonna say, "Hey, I'm Chris Bogue. I make mercifully short video content. I'm a coach. You know, do you want to talk about that?" If I was an SDR and I had to get past a gatekeeper who's not letting me talk to the decision maker, I should know that her name is Doris. And I should know, if it's somebody, the less decision-making power they have, the more they're probably just a cog in the wheel who's designed to not let you through, not talk to the people you want to talk to. So that's actually a person where knowing a little bit about them, a little bit of sweet talk, a little bit of chit chat, that's actually much more valuable there. But yeah, I'll send connection requests just being like, hey, I see you're talking about blank, and I love connecting with people who are focused on that. Because again, it's values, goals, or elephant in the room problem, saying, hey, I see you doing this. And I always tell people, if you see a really awesome content creator on LinkedIn who's just posting amazing stuff, nobody ever gives them compliments. And that's true on Twitter and YouTube. That's true in life, anywhere you go. That's true in sales. Maybe the bosses notice, but actually hardworking, high achieving people achieve a million awesome things in a day that nobody notices and nobody says anything about. So yeah, if I just show up and being like, you must have put a lot of work into that. That was awesome. Like, bravo.
That works too, because there's a, I can't remember who said it, but there's a power line.
Mhm.
Above the power line, all they care about, because it's what they're judged on, is top line, bottom line, and risk. So you have to make a business case. So what you said was business case, revenue. Okay, cool. I can categorize you. When you're below the power line, it's all about what's your day to day and what's causing you hell and what do you love.
Mhm.
And so you talk to them as an individual, because that's what they do every day. Where above the power line, it's about the company. So it seldom gets put into their what's important to them, right? Good,
Yeah.
bad, sad, not necessarily the point, but you hit the nail on the head because you complimented them when they're normally so stuck in the minutia of their day, and they're like, "Oh my God, somebody cares about me." That's a great feeling.
Yeah. Let's talk about rejection here at the end. What do you do when someone says no? What do you do when somebody rejects your sales proposal or your request to have a sales meeting? Do you cross them off the list? Do you objection handle? Do you try again later? Tell me what rejection is like for you, and then I'll throw in my 2 cents. And anyone in the comments here before the end of the episode, if you have any last questions for me or Nick, throw them in here. But yeah, Nick, what do you do? How do you stay a good LinkedIn neighbor after you get rejected?
With what you said, audience first. Part of that whole process before I ever ask for anything is understanding what they're looking for. And so I'll already have kind of a profile built of what I can send them, what they're looking for, what type of content that I'm producing that I might want to tag them in, or what types of events I'd want to go and invite them to. I find that they shift to an audience member instead of an active pursuit, I guess is the best way of explaining it.
Mm-hmm.
But usually I can tell long before, because in a sales process, you qualify before you quantify.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can usually tell if they're not willing to make a change. Like if you're talking to them, you're like, hey, do you go and send a video in your LinkedIn? No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, have you ever been interested in doing it? No. That they're not saying no to you. A lot more or less what they're saying no to is the change, because they don't want to make it. They don't see the value in it. And so where would you rather spend your time, forcing somebody down a line that they don't care about? Or would you rather go and focus on the people that understand they need to change, but they just don't know how? And then what you're doing when they know they need to change and they're quantifying it, they're like, can I do this myself? Or should I just hire Chris to make some badass videos because he can do it faster, better than I ever could, and I don't have to go and learn? That's where you're going through that qualification process. And I find then it doesn't usually get derailed that often, because you've put in so much work at the start. And then it's kind of that, like you said, go with yes. It's kind of that give and take. How can we find something that works for both of us, that it's a win-win? But
Yeah.
odd time you'll get derailed at the end with budget, but I honestly don't see that very often, because they usually tell me before, because you're already giving them value. They're like, just so you know, I have no budget and I can't go and buy what you're selling. No problem. I just want to help you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to throw this one up here. What's your opinion on gated versus ungated content on the website? Ungated for me. Ungated. If people want to go look up my prices, they're on my website. And you know what? That's a big time saver, because most of the people who take sales meetings with me, they Google things before they go to a business meeting. So if they're talking to me, they know what I charge, you know, and they know what I do, and they know what they're getting. And people again, like I said, I'm going to be diversifying what I do. So I'm building a course, I'm selling a book, I'm going to have an audio book. I'm going to have different things that people can pay for, and people can pay me personally. And that is technically gated. But if they don't want to do that, if they just want to laugh at my home improvement video, that helps my business. And I say I'm at the point in, I quit my job a year ago. I am at the point still where attention is as valuable to me as cash. So if they don't want to hire me, but they want to hang out in the comment section and they want to go laugh when me and Nick Thickett do our Tim Allen home improvement bit, yeah, I just say, hey, you know what? Thanks for considering me. I love having you in the network. And then I change nothing about the way I interact with them. I will still comment on their stuff. I will still support them. I will still be a good neighbor, even if they don't want to hire me. But Nick, what's your opinion about gated, ungated? How ungated or gated are you?
Geez, you just ended with a nice hot dilemma here. I ungated all the way because it earns trust at scale. The only time I can see gated being valuable is when you're inviting them into a community where it's a more guided experience. So you might have everything all ungated, but when they want to go to that next level, like I want to hire Chris to go and do this like accelerated video flow. I already know what he costs, but I need to go and know the specifics of like a project plan. Well, there's too many variables. So maybe when they click on that, they go to the next one that allows me to go in now, see what they're doing, or be part of that process with them so I can enable them to buy. But the whole point is just to go and collect emails and numbers. It's a waste of everyone's time and you need to stop doing it.
Yeah, that's what I do. So, I say things changed, Joe, around COVID, especially. A lot of old processes were designed assuming people started work at 8:30 in a work computer and logged out at 5. And now it is a world where there's so many distractions. People are expected to do a million things at their job every day. There's a million people in their inbox trying to sell to them. The goal is that moment where they buy. I always say it's a very slim window of time. That's not 24 hours a day, every day. The research says that's like once every 16 months, right? So my job is not to get everybody sold every single time. My job is to make sure the second they want to get on video and the second they're ready to invest in video content for themselves or their team, Chris Bogue is in the room making the best case for himself that he can. And if your content is gated and your competitors aren't, and the moment they want to look for you, they got to talk to 6 different people and surrender all this data and go to a 30-minute meeting to figure out what they cost, they're going to go to someone that's less hassle.
Yep.
My 2 cents.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an easier process. It happens when they want. And what happens with a lot of this is marketing puts up these stupid ploys to go and collect leads to go get whatever for it. And the SDRs know their shit, so they don't call them. Well, Gartner has proven that after, I think it's 30 minutes, that the likelihood of closing that deal goes down by over 80% or ever having anything come from it. So you miss the boat regardless. So not only are you wasting time and resources, but you're pissing people off.
Yeah, and that is a costly process. Damaging trust will hurt you. So I could talk about this stuff with Nick forever, but we're out of time today. So I'm going to do one more recap here. I will say, if you would like to listen to further episodes of Chris Sells His Soul, you can find me on all major podcast platforms. You can find me on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple. Go check out all my previous episodes if you want to learn more about how to sell yourself creatively and how to make creative content and get more sales for your business. You can also click my bell on LinkedIn if you want to follow my content every day. And Nick, can you remind the audience one more time where they can find you?
You can go to b2bpowerhour.com and go and look at our past live shows and have access to the podcast. We also have a community. You can go and follow us on LinkedIn. And you can also check out Morgan Smith, who's my co-host. He is more the marketing and I'm the sales. And make sure you go get Chris. His videos are fun and he always sends you fun ones in the DMs.
Yeah. Oh, and it's Chris Sells His Soul on TikTok. I was supposed to mention that. So thank you very much. And I will see you soon.
Take care, everyone.